In acknowledgement of pirates thus far, I've been saying the vision is materializing quite well. So I'm of course curious for a third entry. This is, I believe, the third track on the lineup of the album. Yes. And it's the longest experience we've had thus far. I think in total with Visions of Atlantis. Though, I mean, speaking of Wanderers, Release My Symphony might be pretty close. This is nearly 8 minutes, though. And what a delight that is on Presumption. Because you think of Visions of Atlantis and you think of sheer aptitude and the symphonic, and to be fair as well, an acknowledgement, the power and melodic metal veins, but certainly of a defined symphonic vision of Austrian origin, which is automatically charming enough for me. This is my first Austrian group that I've ever humored, and I'm loving the artistry. Not a surprise it would be so sufficient and well executed, because Austria is in Europe, right? And they are a European group by origin, and many of you know, whenever you apply that attribution, at least from my statements and my experiences, it provides a very welcome presumption of what you're about to entertain, certainly on entrance. And Visions of Atlantis, at least tonight, in terms of my introductory experience, I'm taking with you on a mutual respect, perhaps. Well, in general, it's wonderful to add them in terms of central name in my playlist. Many of you, I'm sure, are quite delighted to see their talents grace this channel. They were, in fact, a mainstay name in my comment section, as many groups are. And it's a slow but sure process I'm making my way through in terms of a comprehensive list. And Visions of Atlantis, given again the flock, really, of a reverence to their name, and again, what I've seen in acknowledgement, I'm like, let's fast track this. And just something kind of yearns, and pulls whenever you consider European groups. And I'm like, I couldn't resist the urge to look deeper. So I figured out a selection, a quite expansive one to give us a well-rounded perspective. And every step of the way has been quite an enjoyment. Again, I love spotlighting good art, especially in the music spheres. It is a first love in my life amongst the artistic languages, and it is a long-standing ambition to highlight it as an art form alongside other types of mediums that this channel was founded on and experience. I just happen to respect, again, good art. I want to amplify that in such a way that might take a bit of an orthodox approach, yes, but has the capability to inspire, right, for new listeners. I know a number of you, again, approach unfamiliarity to this group that advances myself. But maybe some don't. Maybe you've never been introduced to Visions of Atlantis, and this will be your first step. Maybe into European metal as well. I think this will be of advantage to you if you're just in the mood for good art and you're artist shopping, maybe you don't know where to look. Let this be a destination spot for you. I think you will I think they'll deliver. Even if maybe you're not necessarily a metalhead by choice, I think grand ambition will speak to you. And if you like anything in terms of fantastical vision with such well-executed delivery on both score and vocal stylings, and narrative as well, but the vocals transfixing Clementine is truly, let's apply the respect of the past track, Melancholy Angel, so good. Still getting over how fabulous that one is. Angel certainly works. I mean, again, her flair, the frailty in her voice mixed up again of an operatic hint, and her range. It's so exquisite. Michelle's as well, in terms of the vocal pairing. This is a fabulous association. I'm loving the experience. I hope you do too, from whatever angle you approach. And I hope there is a diversity of angles, right? Some of you familiarized fans, others first entrances. Let this compel you, and we can enjoy good work together from whatever angle we approach, right? Music is better as a mutual experience, I found in my life. It's still great, but it's not as fun in isolation. It's not as rewarding. To share in good art experiences corporately means a lot. To have those connections fostered, right? To create a fellowship experience of sorts amongst other metal enthusiasts or people who just love good art in the music scene. I don't have this adjacency personally in my day-to-day life. I yearn for it. Many of you have fulfilled that void, and I appreciate each and every one of you from whatever, music group you've approached on this channel. But for those of you who are Visions of Atlantis fans, I appreciate you a little more for revering or for giving me that name. I'm kidding. Everybody's on an even footing in my book. I just love being able to have a fellowship experience here with good art. And Visions of Atlantis, I feel honored to be showcasing them. Let's continue the journey and maybe inspire you to dig down deeper if this is a fresh entrance for you. I would recommend you dig back into their past library for sure. But maybe this will be your first entrance to the world of European metal, and certainly such a capable Austrian group. So we're going to start up Master the Hurricane. This also happens to have a video as well, per usual with pirates. I'm really enjoying that. I love the visualizer component. Such a long work though at 8 minutes, but quite a pleasurable treat. And then symphonic vibe. I've mentioned this before, again with respect to past works, let's say for example on Wanderers and Release My Symphony. It reminds me a lot in terms of, again, a long duration of maybe other comparable symphonic metal groups. Not of the Austrian vein, but let's say, for example, German. Zandria, I took that journey very recently with Two Worlds. That was such a beautiful album opener. I get vibes of that here. Let's see Visions of Atlantis' delivery. I'm sure it'll be just as well executed, but anything of a long duration, like, okay, let's see where this goes. It's not an album opener, it's the third track in, but I'm curious. Oh, come on. Shoot. Here, this is the second time I've made this mistake tonight of clicking on the wrong window. There we go. Again, I love how the feel of being at sea is manifesting beautifully in their songs. It's just such an organic intrusion, but it's so faithful to what they want to imagine. And it's so true to the symphonic side. Ah, I love these wind-ups. Pacing instantly clicks. I love aggressive metal, so the vision of this album, really good so far. Beautiful intensity. I love it. Incredibly rewarding. Background choir too, to intermix that. Fabulous. It's a great opener. So epic.
Walking the meadows of bliss and flowers of love. Holding the moments of peace I cherish all along.
Her delivery here is just, it's perfect as always, but it's my favorite on the album thus far. And then when you kick in the choir, it's even better. And here we go, the hybrid duel. Effective lead. Nice power again in the delivery. It's just so encompassing of a set. The return to that root. Man, I'm loving that swing. Adept symphonic metal. I truly love it. We're not even halfway through yet. This number is fabulous. That overlap really is fantastic, as always. Both Michelle and Clementine just blend so well. And the VFX are quite great too. I mean, Napalm Records always goes all out in terms of their music video deliveries, especially on the symphonic side. Speaking again of Zandria by comparison, I'm still impressed by the detail work. Nice blend on an end note. The intermixing's working for me in the format, again, of a conversation. I love that structure. The reduction, good choices. A lot of ambition here, creativity, but a piece with a lot of passion and drive. Incredibly rewarding.
Walking the meadows of bliss that hide in my heart. Ashes have covered the fields.
Ah, those inflections. Deeply enchanting. You savor every minute.
Not a dream. It flowed in all the streams. I know it return one day to this world I knew.
That was executed beautifully. Swift return, I like that. That's like an angel? The hair kind of makes it think that it's a bit like a Christ stand-in. If you see my Christian paintings, I mean, I don't know if that's the symbology they're going for, but... Or symbology, the analogy, the presence. I think more like along the lines of an angel or some sort of saving grace. Which is funny. Oh, man. I love this score. It's so good. They perfectly nailed it. Favorite of my symphonic constructions as of yet. Again, whenever you throw that choir in. You know, maybe I'm not the most experienced of pirate lore, but as I was saying with I believe that's Michel who invades the scene. If you've seen any of those painted portraits in terms of the probable appearances of Christ, it's kind of like you see somebody lift off their hood of all this, you know, curly hair and a white robe, and you're like, is that the image you were going for? I mean, I kind of get like maybe the poetry of a saving grace in the middle of a hurricane. That would fit with the nature of a song. I'm assuming more it's like a guardian angel of sorts that then transforms into a pirate. I don't know. Maybe again this is all sort of like a figment of imagination, perhaps. Again, there's a beautiful abstraction to these pieces that are just so deeply enchanting. And in terms of manifesting narratives, I love what Visions of Atlantis has to offer, especially on visualizer illustrations. That is a beautiful piece. The duration helps. How stretched that is. I love it. And I told you again, you know, on Open, I didn't see how similar that would be, but to Zandria, right? Not to, again, just reduce this number as, oh, it's a good comparable, because it can stand on its own 2 feet for sure, right? But it reminds me a lot of Two Worlds, right? How strong that work was in Opener and how it stretched out its duration again in a symphonic illustration, but it was just so rewarding to its varied traits, an execution of precision, right? This piece, same. That symphonic entrance, right? It starts out soft, balanced. You think, okay, let's hear the momentum grow. You kind of see that at play, and then suddenly it just kicks in with such an aggressive lens. You're like, oh, this is good. It's strong. The pattern of it, the riff structure, the background choir inclusion, I loved that. It's one of my favorite attributions when you talk about symphonic metal. I love whenever that invades. And there's been so many groups, including Zandria or Sirenia, that have played around with that. Camelot as well, to some extent. Maybe a little more limited than the other two groups, but it's always a fun intrusion, right? I love whenever it kicks in. And for Visions of Atlantis to bring that in, I'm like, hey, that's deeply rewarding. You've already transfixed me immediately with your tune. Just keep adding on the finesse and the flair. And you made such a deeply rewarding experience as this is. And on vocal delivery, the pairing, as always, between Clementine and Michel, flawless. And I love the pattern, by the way, in that verse structure of the bridge, the conversation, right? Sort of her speaking in her mind and then him replying. It's a great duality of approach. Again, each line feeds. And then there's that natural intersection blended again with a softer trailing. I liked that choice towards the end where it reduces, right? It doesn't... They could make the choice to keep it in a similar execution expression for sure, right? Keep it a maintained volume, but instead they choose to reduce it to suppress the articulation, so it becomes more of a whisper effect. I like that trailing. Again, it feeds quite well into the song's break, and then a sufficient wind-up after. Again, the transitional phrases that they oftentimes play with are just so perfect, and I feel they fulfill the song's vision greatly. And they make for a rewarding experience. I mean, each step of the way on my journey thus far with Visions of Atlantis, I've loved. Every second, every minute. You know, it's pretty easy to say when it comes to longer pieces that those are usually the ones you might generally favor over others, because that is strong, right? Every piece thus far from Visions of Atlantis has been a fun one to entertain, and it makes it all the better to enjoy it with you on a first approach, right? And again, from whatever angle you approach, fresh face, long-time fan of theirs, I'd love to hear about it down below, as well as your overall thoughts on the piece. But in lineup of the album, two first entrances in were quite strong, especially in manifesting that pirate vision, with maybe a broad applicability if you wanted to expand if necessitated by the work. Melancholy Angel was like this. Even this one, Master the Hurricane, kind of has an energy to it. A bit of a flair. You know, sometimes it's hard maybe to acknowledge every element in terms of a first take. I do try to do my best to encompass every sort of thought that I have in terms of an adequate review. But certain pieces take a little more time to ingratiate themselves and to understand the narrative and maybe how broad it is, right? I appreciate that envisionment and the intentionality with Visions of Atlantis that they do that. And it's been a repetition over the number of albums we've consulted in at least a selection thus far. And Master the Hurricane, I would say, is no different. There is that type of real-world emotional flair connection that it exhibits. It's hard to top, though, in terms of favorability, like a nearly 8-minute long number. Especially in the symphonic metal regard. How it points back to roots of familiarity from other groups that are kind of adjacent to this and ones I've revered, and how it mimics and departs. It doesn't outstay its welcome in any way. Each second is rewarding. I find it to be one of my favorites on the album thus far, and each piece has been quite competent and good in manifesting that pirate story that is fun, invigorating, and enjoyment to watch. But just to exhibit the talents, again, blended in so adeptly. I love that about music, that we get to, there's a possibility that we can enjoy it together, because it just makes everything, it makes a piece so much more rewarding, right? Master the Hurricane, I think, deserves that type of attention. It's deeply cinematic, and I love the articulation of the video. Napalm Records, as always, goes all out with many of their artists, especially, again, when it requires a more cinematic touch. This has it. A number with a lot of ambition, but a rewarding one on delivery. It's so much fun. I cannot wait to humor it again. And I imagine many of you would concur. I don't like to speak for anybody, but I would presume that there's going to be that mutual point of agreement, right? That for you, this was equally as rewarding, and it dominates your fixation on several repeat listens, as Visions of Atlantis does. I think they require it. I'm quite pleased, again, that I made the choice to happen upon them so quickly based on your recommendations. I feel honored featuring them, highlighting good art. They certainly qualify. Master the Hurricane, what a beautiful arrival to the channel, and for symphonic metal, top tier favorite of mine. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.